Welcome back, Gundam guys and Gundam gals. Patrick Grade here from GGInfiniteNews.com, and today I'm very happy to bring you the review for the MSN-001 Delta Gundam. If you want to see a detailed look at the contents of the box, please go check out the unboxing video. So in this video I'm going to try to cover everything about the kit, the parts and pieces, and the mobile suit, as well as the transformation and the Waverider form. So it may be kind of long, so if you want to skip around to different parts of the video, please use this chapter selection I've got set up down in the info section. That way you can easily navigate to the different parts of the video. So I'll start by taking a look at the parts and pieces of the mobile suits and going from there. So I always manage to leave out at least one thing in the unboxing video, and this time I left out the sticker sheet. So here's a look at it. We have a lot of maroon stickers used for various trim areas, which is a little disappointing, but it actually turned out okay, and I'll show those off when I get to them. A couple of parts for the sensors on the weapons. And you get two choices for the eyes, one all black, I guess if you want to cut out and paint the piece below it, and then the normal black and red sticker for the eyes. Alright, so starting at the bottom here with the feet and legs, you can see there's a lot of nice color separation and color layering. A lot of the nice shiny gold on the outside here, with red trim on the back of the knees for the hoses, and then on the bottom of the feet. And then dark blue poking through the armor here in a couple places, on the front and the thrusters here, as well as some light gray underneath for the joints for the ankles. The articulation is really good as well. Almost a complete 180 bend there at the knee. And then of course you have the backwards chicken leg bend there for the transformation. You see this articulation a lot in a lot of the transforming mobile suits. So it's a pretty standard kind of thing. For the feet, the ankles are really mobile. There's no side skirts for the shin armor, so it can move around quite a bit. And then the ankle can also pivot backwards some. Flap here on the back can move up and down slightly, and the front of the feet can come down as well. So for the transformation process on the legs, one part you do is fold the legs back that way, and then you remove the feet completely, and then you remove the front of the feet from the heel, and there's a poly cap here that pegs into place there. And then you take this outside piece that's specifically for the transformation and plug it back into there like that. And that gives you a collapsed foot kind of design. And then this goes back into the foot like that. So that's how you get the complete bend of the feet. So that's basically what you want to do for the transformation. And for the legs, with the stickers, you're supposed to use these little cutouts here, these two sets of four, for the four edges for the thruster cavities here. I don't usually do that because they're kind of hard to line up and they don't stay in place very well. But if you wanted to, they're there on the sticker sheet for you to use. So a cool thing that Bandai did for the transformation process, up here on the hip joint, this slides out real easily. And this part's supposed to stay attached to the torso, while this part plugs into the main transformation piece of the Waverider form. So you may see this come out kind of easily, but it's supposed to do that to make the transformation process a little easier, and easier on the joints too. These are pretty tight on the hip joints, so removing it a lot would cause it probably a lot of stress and easily break the plastic. So that's kind of a neat way they did it. It stays in place pretty well. There's not really a problem with it kind of sliding out. I think it's a good design choice there. Alright, so next up is the waist unit, which is looking really good here with the shiny gold and the dark blue poking through from underneath. Front flaps can of course move up and down, as well as the side skirts can pivot on their axis there. The back skirts are solid, so no movement out of there. And underneath, you're supposed to leave the hip joints here plugged into place for the legs to plug into for mobile suit mode. And there's also a port for the action base. So the waist unit is pretty uniquely designed here for the transformation. If you can see, the side skirts are attached to the back skirt only. They don't attach to the front at all. So you can kind of see that there's a gap in between there. And for the transformation, you want to take off the rear skirt. And you can see how these guys are attached there. And then you take off these little pieces here at the side skirts. And these are actually used on the Waverider form, while these guys are not. You just unpeg these all the way. And so for the Waverider, you use the back skirt and the two side skirts here, and the rest of the stuff just sits to the side. So again, it looks really good. I'm really impressed by the gold plating. I've never really bought a kit this shiny before, so I was always kind of turned off by them just looking at the pictures. But in person, they look really good, and I'm pretty happy with it overall. Just of course, there's a lot of smudges and fingerprints on the gold. Alright, so next up are the arms and shoulder armor, which are looking really good here with the shiny gold. The small red trim pieces here on the forearms, and the dark blue for the elbows and the hands. The articulation is pretty decent too. You get a little bit over 90 degrees there at the elbow. Some upper arm swivel. Alright, so for the transformation process, what you want to do is take off the shoulder armor. And the way it connects to the arms is pretty cool. It just kind of slides into place on the little groove there. and just sits there. It's a pretty solid connection. It doesn't snap or lock into place at all, but it does hold there really well, and also allows for some decent articulation in and out there. So for the transformation process, again, just take off the shoulder armor and push up on the connection joint there, and then everything kind of just goes into place like that, just lays down flat, and that's pretty much it for the transformation. So you get 6 different hands, you get 2 closed fists like that, 1 trigger finger I'll show you on the weapon, 1 for the beam saber, and then 2 open hands like this. But you only get 3 gold wrist guards, and you also get 3 blue wrist guards. So you kind of have to swap these out between the 3, depending on which hands you want to use. So that's a little bit cumbersome, but it's not a big deal, I guess. I don't think you'll be using these very often anyway. Alright, so next up is the chest unit and the backpack. For the main chest unit, it's pretty simple as far as the colors go. The majority of the plastic being the dark blue, with a little bit of gold here on front and on the neck area. The maroon parts here on the sides are stickers, and they're actually on exposed edge, so they're raised up from a little bit from the rest of the plastic. They stay on pretty well as it is right now, but I assume they'll start pulling up here at some point in time when the adhesive kind of dries out. So you may need to have some extra microsolve or that soft setter stuff to help these guys stay in place. There are no moving parts here on the main torso or the backpack, except for the little bit of thruster movement you get here and head articulation out of the neck here. The backpack is pretty simple aside from these large wings. Not much detail or anything there, and it does remove for the transformation. The wings are on a polycap joint and a separate piece here that attaches to the wings. They slot into place here and rest pretty securely there. One problem that I have with the Delta Plus HGUC were that the wings attach very loosely, not as securely as these guys attach. So the wings were often falling off of the Delta Plus, but this is a much better way to attach them to the backpack and for them to stay there. On the wings you get a little bit of articulation here. The lower half swivels up and down, while there's also some outward movement on the piece here. And the peg here is for the weapon to attach to in the Waverider form. It pegs into place here on either side. So for the main torso, it's looking pretty good, although it's a little plain as far as the color goes. I'm kind of surprised they didn't add a sticker or something here for these recessed pieces, just to kind of bring out those areas a little bit more. But overall, it does look really nice. And the wings function really well. I was surprised to see how well they do, because I was nervous since I had such problems with the Delta Plus HGUC. Alright, so next up is the head, which reminds me a lot of the design of the Witch King or Saruman from Lord of the Rings. A very long, angular design with a very pronounced V-fin there. I like the overall design, although I think there's a little too much gold in such a small area. It's kind of hard to make out the details with everything being so shiny. The only real color separation we have are the stickers there on the eyes and the forward camera and the rear camera. It doesn't look bad or anything, I think it would look better with some more colors there. One thing I was sort of disappointed with are the seam lines there along the middle of the head. Bandai didn't seem to put any kind of effort into hiding this at all, so you can see it's right down the middle. So overall I think the head looks really nice. I think the aesthetic design is really cool. I just wish there was some more color involved. Alright, so next up is the massive shield that seconds as a nose cone and beam saber storage. This pegs into place on either forearm pretty securely here with this large peg, and it looks really good. These parts here are stickers, and I think I did a pretty decent job of applying them. They're supposed to go on the top and around all the edges. It doesn't look too bad, but they're a little difficult to get on there perfect. So it's a little bulky here underneath, a lot of stuff attached to here, but this functions as part of the nose cone in Waverider form. And underneath here you have a maroon sticker for some extra detail. It's recessed down in here, so it stays in place pretty well. Dark blue up here that pokes through the other side. So I was pretty impressed with the color separation on a whole here, although I wish these parts were plastic, especially since they're on such a pronounced piece and pretty front and center there. But all in all, I think it looks good. It's a little heavy, but it stays in place on the arm pretty well, so no complaints there. And like I said before, there's also the beam saber handles here that peg into place, so you may need to use a knife to get them out of there. So the beam saber handles are pretty simple, just simple cylinders with a hole on top that you plug the beam saber blades into. And even though it's simple, I think it looks really good with the blade attached there. Alright, so last up here is the large beam rifle, which is molded all in the dark blue plastic with a large green sticker here in front for the sensor. Just be real careful of the barrel here on front. This is a separate piece and attaches on a very thin peg so it can break off quite easily, as mine did with just a little bit of effort, so I had to put it back on with some thin cement, so just be careful of that. And the handle is different here because I lost the handle that actually came with this kit, and I had to use a handle from one of the Rizal kits that I have. It's supposed to be dark blue too, but it's gray here. So there's a lot of nice detail here with some deep china lines and some variances on the height of the plastic, so even though it's solid blue, you can paint it up and make it look pretty nice. and it fits well in hand on the trigger finger hand here. Nothing too fancy. It looks nice. Could use some paint applications here to make it look a little better. Alright, so here's a look at the Delta Gundam in the mobile suit form. It's a very long and lanky kit, like a lot of the transforming Gundams are. I like the look of it a lot, even with the shiny gold plastic, which I'm usually not a fan of. I think it looks really good here in person. Of course, it's very shiny, and it's offset nicely by the blue and the dark red here, so I think the overall aesthetic design is very pleasing. As far as articulation goes, the front skirts can come up quite a bit to allow the legs to go out quite a bit. The side skirts and the legs can only bend outward just a little bit, not too much. You get a decent split there. The waist can rotate around pretty well. It gets a little loose though when you go all the way around. The shoulders are nicely articulated here with some outward movement. The arms can go up a decent amount, and the elbows can bend about 90 degrees or so and go across the chest. The head's kind of hindered by the collar and the back area there, so it can't go full 360, but that's not always necessary. And the wings can do quite a bit of stuff too. They can go in and out, up and down, and kind of side to side, so everything's pretty nice and mobile. And it's balanced really well too. Even with the heavier wings on the back, it can stand up pretty well on its larger feet. So all in all, I think the mobile suit is looking really nice. The only thing I don't like too much about the gold plastic is there's not a lot of detail in it. They usually leave it pretty flat, just a few channel lines here and there on some pieces, but overall it's kind of light on panel lines and stuff, which is not always a bad thing. And even if it was panel lined, you can't really do too much with it. And it's a very solid kit too, in mobile suit form. There's no pieces falling off. Like I said before with the Delta Gundam, the wings were really hard to stay on, but this guy is very solid. You can move around quite a bit without disrupting too much stuff. The only thing I have a problem with are these little pieces here in the back. Like this one fell off, I can put it back on real easily, but they're kind of troublesome there. But everything else stays in place just fine. And here it is armed up with the rifle and the shield. The rifle holds in hand pretty well. Doesn't add too much weight to the arms. It can hold it out at the various angles pretty well. The shield, however, is a little bit heavy. The elbow joint can hold it up just fine, but the shoulder joint, when you put it out like that, or on the outside, it tends to sag down there some. But it stays in place in the forearm pretty well. It's a little saggy there. It only clips in at one place, so maybe if it was clipping at two places, it'd be a little better. But it doesn't seem to fall off very easily, which is a good thing. And it can go on either forearm if you want it to. So it's looking really nice with the weapons. I kind of wish the rifle had some gold in it, just so it kind of fit in better with the rest of the arms. Like a couple pieces here and there would be kind of cool. But as it is, it's okay. So even with the extra weight of the heavy shield and the rifle, it still balances pretty well. I don't really have any problems with anything falling over or falling off. So all in all, I'm very happy with the mobile suit mode. I think it looks really unique with the long, lanky design, and of course the bright gold armor. So definitely a pretty unique looking kit. Alright, so here it is with the beam saber in hand, or the right hand rather. You don't get a left hand big enough to hold it, so you can only put it in one hand, which is kind of disappointing. I don't know why they shortchange you like that sometimes. But I think it fits real nicely, of course, with the gold color scheme. And it fits in good with the hand too. It's a little loose, but it seems to hold forward just fine and not fall out or anything. And also with the beam saber blades, I guess you could plug them into the handles while they're stored in the shield and get that kind of effect. Looks pretty cool, I guess, and kind of reminds me of the Sinanju with its fancy shield. Alright, so before I show off the Waverider form and transformation, I need to show off a few pieces that are specific to the Waverider mode. Now, a lot of these pieces have counterparts on the mobile suit form, but they don't carry over between the two forms, so they're specific to the Waverider form. Like the heel here, I've showed you this in the transformation for the foot. But there's also a unique shoulder. That's a little bit different than the shoulder on the mobile suit, though it does have the vents and stuff on the lower edge. And on this large main piece here, which all the parts plug into, it also has a secondary front skirt part that is specific to this one and doesn't transfer over. These pegs are where the wings plug into here on either side, these light gray pegs. And here are the parts that aren't being used in the Waverider form. The mobile suit ankles and heels. The side skirt bits here that plug into the back skirt. The original shoulders with the attachment point there. The torso, the chest, and the head unit. And finally the little parts that plug into the wing and to the backpack. Alright, so here's everything you need for the transformation process. The legs need to be in this form with the new heels attached. The legs bent backward that way. The arms need to be detached from the shoulder armor. Have the closed fist hands on here and look sort of like that. And with the beam rifle, you need to have the handle flipped down to expose this peg here. You also need to detach the back skirt and these pieces from the side skirts. And that's pretty much it. Alright, so to do the transformation, take your main middle piece here, and you'll see these two slots here on either side. These are where the arms peg into place like they did with the shoulder armor. Just slide each one down there like that until you get this kind of effect going on. Take the replacements for the shoulder armor and they peg into place here on these pegs. And this becomes the bottom of the flight mode. You can also peg in these back skirts here on top to that area there. Next you want to attach the legs. They slide into place here on either side. These two exposed polycaps here are where the side skirts plug into. And then you want to attach the wings to these pegs here on either side, like that. Want to make sure that you have this area here facing the bottom. The backpack then plugs up here on top. The shield becomes a nose cone and plugs here on the bottom. And then finally pick a side for the rifle, take the peg here underneath and plug it into the bottom of the wing. Alright, so after you get everything put together, you can put it up on an action base, either 1 or 2, and then you get a really nice looking Waverider form. I think it looks really good from the sides and the front. A lot of good angles and neat details. It looks very spaceship-like from the sides. But I think I enjoy looking at it from the top the most. The angles of the wings and the colors and everything, this looks really good from this top angle here. So definitely a really good Waverider form. And while it's similar to the Zeta Waverider form and the Delta Plus, it definitely has its own unique style. Alright, so we've checked out everything for this kit. We've looked at all the parts and pieces, the mobile suit form and the Waverider form. So it's time to wrap up this review and give you my overall thoughts. So as you can see, I'm a really big fan of the overall transforming Gundam design from the Zeta, the Delta Plus, and the Rizal. So I was initially really excited about the Delta Gundam. Although I wasn't a big fan of the color scheme to begin with, I wasn't too sure about the gold plastic and stuff, but I really did enjoy the overall design and the look of it. So after playing with it and having it for a couple weeks, I really like this kit. The gold coating on the parts is fantastic. Almost all the nub marks are undergate, and if they're not, they are hidden really well by other parts overlapping with. So there's really not any issues with any exposed bad nub marks, so don't worry too much about that. The overall stability of the kit's really great, especially for a transforming parts former. Like with the Delta Plus, I had problems with the wings falling off, and actually one of the support arms broke on my Delta Plus, so I was a little worried about how this guy would work. I'm overall really impressed with the way the wings attach to the backpack and how solidly they stay in place, so there's no issue with them falling off or anything. When I first saw the shield in the pictures, I was a little underwhelmed with it just because of the overall size and kind of weird design to it. But seeing it in person and how well it stays on forearm and everything, I'm really impressed with it. So everything about this kit is pretty top notch. And you would expect so for paying a little bit extra for a high grade kit. You know, it's around $52 or so at ggmfit.com. But I think it's overall really worth it. I really don't have too many problems with the kit overall. So when you're cleaning off the undergate pieces, make sure you clean it off really smoothly. Otherwise you'll have some extra gap in between the pieces and it might be a little unsightly. The small complaints that I could really have are that there's only one hand to hold the beam saber, for the right hand and not for the left hand. Now like I said earlier with the head, it looks really good, but there's too much shiny gold there and not enough other color to really see it clearly. So that's kind of a problem with the HGUC 2. It's just all gold with just the eyes and the cameras. So it would be cool to see a little more color separation there. I know there may be people who aren't very happy about the part forming aspect of the transformation, but to be honest, it works a lot better that way than having to rely on actual moving parts and transforming pieces, especially for a high grade kit. I don't think they could pull off the transformation anywhere near as good as it is with the part swapping, and if they tried to, it would be a much weaker kit overall on both forms. It is a little troublesome having all the parts left over between the different modes, but I don't mind so much having a bag of parts laying around if it means that I have two good forms out of the kits. So I welcome the part swapping aspect of the transformation. I kind of wish Bandai would do with the transforming kits what they did with the Banshee and the Unicorn and give us a kit per form. That way you get both modes in perfect anime accuracy without having the extra parts and stuff left over. And plus you could have them side by side and make a nice little display that way. So maybe Bandai will do that one day for the high grade kits. So of course there's the issue of the gold parts being really easy to smudge and to get fingerprints and stuff all over, especially when you have greasy fingers like me. But I think it looks really good overall, and it's a small price to pay for such a standout looking kit. You can see the light shining off this guy as it turns around, affecting all the things around it. So it's definitely a standout looking kit. I just wish I had two of them so I can display and both modes next to each other. Because the Waverider form is probably my favorite. I think it looks really good, and it's very unique looking. And of course there's the issue of the price of the kit. It may be a little steep for a lot of people to buy, but like some of the other higher priced, high grade kits like the Kshatriya, I think this kit is really worth it. It has a great design on both Waverider and Mobile Suit, a very solid transformation, and solid kit overall. So I definitely recommend getting this kit, especially to anybody who's a fan of the early UC stuff, and the whole Transformer Mobile Suit design aesthetic. It's pretty fantastic overall, with very few negative issues in my mind. So thanks a lot for watching. Thank you to Gundam Guy for providing the kit. Please let me know what you think of the video and the kit with a comment down below. So do you think you guys will pick one up? How big of an issue is price to you guys when you're buying kits? What's the max you'll pay for a high grade kit or a master grade kit? And if there's ever any reason for you to spend more than your limit. And is this something you would consider buying? And thank you of course to Robert184 for posting my video on his site. I really appreciate your help. Stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you soon.